The idea to make this show came about out of a sort of a frustration. Like many of my endeavors, they are born out of some kind of frustration of not seeing what I want to see. I've been a very close observer of everything that has been coming about, and be it, the output of artists, but also what the market has done, what institutions have done, what independent spaces have done in this field, and how that has been picked up mainly by the market, fueled by a certain sense of reawakening around, the importance of blackness in societies. I believe that there is a larger scope to figuration. There is a broader temporality to figuration. That's how I started, and that's how I got the team going.
When We See Us, A Century of Black Figuration in Painting is a show that is all about celebrating. It's a show that is underpinned by a theme of Black joy, and it's about Black people seeing themselves, expressing themselves, and asserting themselves in their own terms. It's a show that has over 200 artworks from 74 lenders, coming from over 25 countries and 155 artists. It's a massive show. And what we wanted to do with this exhibition was to show that there's been a very important historical continuum of Black portraiture or Black figuration.
I believe it's the first that is really taking the scope of Black figuration to a very serious level, but to bring it to a broader sense of really looking at the contentions and the beauty of Black experience and Black life from a figuration perspective. I think it's the only one so far.
When We See Us is part of an important historical continuum. What we're trying to do through this exhibition is to tell people or remind people about the important artistic genealogies, schools, collectives, organizations that have fed into the art that we see today.
But it really epitomizes the vision, the original vision. And that is African art telling African stories, inspiring. I love this idea, the expression that Gandhi has, that the culture of a country is in the soul and the hearts of its people. Now, this exhibition, 170 African artists painting themselves in different environments. What better window into the culture and the society? What an exciting opportunity for somebody visiting this country to get this insight.
Defined a lot of things that I'm doing in life. I've gotten to love the continent and never felt that it was represented properly in the rest of the world. I would say this is sort of my dream show, and I had nothing to do with it, which was fantastic, but it's sort of my dream show simply because it is so broad and it spans 100 years of of art history, but it's portrayed in an innovative and new way, curated in such a fresh way, where you have, you know, works that are 90, 80, 100 years old together with works from the 21st century, and just that juxtaposition in a way makes old and new, young and older artworks come to life in a very different way, in a contextual way, and we are not walking through art history. We're looking at themes that the shows have been curated around, which I think is very, very exciting. So what got me kind of into this idea of building a collection is this show. It represents all of it, so I'm very grateful for that.
The other layer that I think is very important for me is the transtemporality. First of all, figuration is a very old canon of artistic practice and of art history. I mean, I don't have to educate anyone about that. Figuration is at the beginning and at the end of all pictorial kind of practices.
Then just to say that, so all these books, and there's some still being ordered that need to be bought, plus 3 TV screens have now been added to the timeline.
I have a feeling that with the timeline you have a broad framework, right? And then on site we can
We got a formal invitation to participate in the design work for this exhibition from Koyo and Storm and the rest of the team. And I mean, it was a no-brainer, you know, because number one, the curatorial project is so important, you know, this idea of placing ourselves as Black people within the kind of big diaspora of Black creative art. That's my politics as well, that's my shared vision. So the curatorial project was very attractive and it was a no-brainer, but also the team, you know, the team at Zeitz MOCAA, phenomenal, creative, friendly, and, you know, just joyful team to work with.
The exhibition was sort of foregrounded by the webinar series, so we actually started imagining that look and feel where there was a need to have it appear as absolutely bold and present, not particularly loud, but bold. So we created something that would sort of speak to the very verbal and discourse-oriented.
We were given this space of the museum and the gallery, which have, you know, right angles and boxes, and, you know, it becomes a very maze-like exhibition because it's very utilitarian. But what if we imagined these themes to actually mess with that kind of containment? So I made these drawings of, you know, the content actually going out of the walls, right? And then how do we begin to link these themes, you know, because some of the themes would then spill over to the other room. But how do we link it so that it actually becomes one room or a sense of one room? And how do these new walls begin to actually usher people through?
So you also see how it inspired these sort of gathering points where you would gather around specific key points of the exhibition, which sort of parallel with the themes, the sections. And then also start building the shapes of the, the walls with this sort of rounded. So this very welcoming feel that was installed by Wolf's architects.
These themes became just actually structured the exhibition, but not necessarily in these kind of very discrete rooms. You know, I wanted it to be very continuous and very free, and maybe even in my imagination actually went beyond the walls, because that's what these works do. You know, they go beyond the walls that they are hung up on.
Reddish and green also helped know where we could install those problems. And So it was decided that it was better, for instance, for the wall text and title to occupy lower parts of the walls to sort of offer more space to the works which are more important. So that's that's what I can say about it. 2 steps: the webinar, more colorful, and then bit by bit folding into the spatial experience, which is a bit more calm and had to merge with what the physical space design did. The timeline was an important piece. We received data from the museum, which was the result of an important and extensive research on the various things, schools, the institutions, the artist names, the major dates, the political events. So it was about reorganizing those elements in a way that would make sense for public, but at the same time, not trying to have a clustered object, very hard to access. So what we did is that finally we arrived into this date field. So when you experience the timeline, you have a decade, and the decade is a field of events somehow. And those events are variant in terms of their category.
It's difficult to think about 100 years of painting without also thinking about sound, because every era has a sound. So we absolutely had to collaborate with South African composer Neo Muyanga, who brilliantly came up with a sonic translation or a sonic design of the exhibition. So what happens is, as you navigate your way through the exhibition, you'll hear different sounds that speak to the last 100 years according to specific theme.
It was important for me to be a part of this show because I think this museum is such an important center for art for the continent and for the diaspora. And I wanted to bring an archival response to the show. What African musicians have chosen as an aesthetic, but also a kind of a political posture over the past century. So it's a way of speaking to material that is very well known, that is popular, but also material that has been made obscure and invisible for political reasons, or maybe just it has been forgotten, doesn't get played a lot. I wanted to bring some of those threads to start connecting to some of the work that is on the wall. The process for me involved first hearing about what the different thematic rooms represent, the idea of the everyday, the idea of sensuality, spirituality, how all those themes interact with one another. I came to the museum and spoke to the curators to try and understand what their vision was. I had a chat to the architect who designed the spaces, Ilse Wolf, to understand a bit more about what was shaping it for her in her mind. And those were the reflections that I took with me to try and understand how you create a mixtape for one environment that may relate to the next one, but how the frequencies would speak to each other really is dependent on what the walls are doing, what the acoustic material on the floor is doing. So I had to reflect through what the sound character is, but also what the physical space implies. So that was my process.
Whew. It's kind of goosebump moments because it really sits well
with many of the reasons of why we collect as a family. I mean, for us, we collect a lot of art to inspire. And so a large amount of our collection sits in entrepreneurs' offices across the continent. So you'll find our art in Yoko's offices here in Cape Town. You'll find them in Flutterwave's offices in Nigeria. And these are tech entrepreneurs building the next category-defining businesses for this continent, who then have this art around them on their walls, inspiring them daily. It inspires us as a family. I also think, as collectors, or more importantly, custodians, it's also up to us to share the work. So to be able to share it on a platform like Zeitz has been a great honor. So it really gives me goosebumps. It really aligns well with our mission as a family. So yeah, very, very great honor.
First of all, the collection and what the curators have done is really epic for contemporary African art. I'm not sure, and I maybe stand to be corrected, but I don't think any exhibition of this scale has ever been attempted or even carried out before. So, and the importance really is about the conversation of contemporary art on the continent, and not just on the continent, in the diaspora.
We're happy to have the opportunity to participate in this type of in this exhibition. We've participated in exhibitions before, but I think this one is definitely special. Again, I just think it's going to give so many people opportunity to see such great works on a grand scale, and just really happy to just play a small role and share this experience, and hopefully everyone share this experience with people around the world.
The conversation that was going on at the time, where we also had liberation movements, we had anti-colonial movements, we had human rights issues in America. And all of this was happening at the time a lot of these contemporary works were being created.
Artists are historians in many ways and amongst many things, but I think it is important to have these moments captured by us at this time. And I think what Zeitz has done has been incredible, because as you look at all the wonderful creations that have been done here, they've been done by Black artists. They're giving Black people a voice in a moment that's been captured, for hundreds and hundreds of years going forward. So very important conversation to have, very important to highlight globally what is happening and being created by Black artists. And it's, again, an honor to be part of it in a very small way.
One thing that's been important is and one of the reasons that we took our collection to so many other museums to share it, was to show people who were not familiar with the work of Black artists that Black people do the same things as everyone else. Not everything that a Black artist produces can be considered protest art. We're not showing people in chains and being whipped in bondage. These are people who are sitting at home reading a letter, or dancing, or sitting in a bar, or enjoying the outdoors. These are everyday things that Black people do, just like anyone else who is living and enjoying their life. There's a vibrancy and a love of life that comes through all of the work that I've seen.
It really is an honor to be part of such a big exhibition, especially that is focusing on African portraiture or just African artists in general from Africa and the African diaspora. I think it's such a significant time in history, and to be part of it feels really amazing. Yeah.
It's a kind of blessing because projects of this caliber doesn't come every day. To have an opportunity for your work to be selected into this kind of project, it's a blessing. I mean.
This is an exceptional group show because, and also where the exhibition is taking place. I think that for Cape Town to have this vast history of African painting practice to be on display is an exceptional opportunity, firstly for Cape Townians, and then for the rest of Africa. So it's very rare to get this volume of information about what Africans have achieved in the visual arts, particularly in one field of it, which is painting.
Well, to me, this is simply a mirror of who we are, self-reflection, putting the gaze back on us and interrogating who we are as a people.
I feel like in this moment, I am like a continuation of people that have come before me. And so when I look at some of the artists that are in this exhibition, it's like I am because they were, And so when I think about when we see us, it's like collectively, like we can see ourselves, and that makes me feel incredibly happy.
So the exhibition, of course, comes with a large program. There is an editorial program, there is a discursive program, and there is even a closing conference project around the exhibition. I really wanted to have the voice of creative writers. I wanted the voice of novelists, I wanted the voice of poets, who also are part of the narrative of the Black experience in ways that are a little bit different than curators do or art historians do. The entire exhibition that will run at Zeitz MOCAA will also be accompanied by a long process of webinars, critical discourse that have started already. They started 6 months ago, before the exhibition even opened. And during those webinars, we are bringing scholars, of course, curators, writers, thinkers. I hope they feel enchanted and uplifted and excited.